Hello everyone, my name is Ewa Cybulska-Bohuszewicz. Today I and Nina Manninen from Turku University, Turun Yliopisto in Finnish, we will present you a royal manuscript, the manuscript of Katrin Jagiellon. Our presentation will divide in two parts. The first, I'll tell you something about inventory in general, and then Nina will talk about her dissertation, which she is preparing. Okay. I will share my screen now to show you my presentation. Okay. And full screen. Okay, as you can see, the royal manuscript Wyprawa królewny. Wyprawa królewny, it's quite a mysterious title for you, I think, but I will explain what does it mean. Okay. In my presentation, I will show a kind of samples of original Polish text in Polish language, Old Polish, and I will analyze some lexical aspect of it. I mean, I would like to indicate a few words which are unknown in contemporary Polish language. This explains why this text, I mean, why Wyprawa is so difficult in reading, and it concerns both, I mean, people from Poland, as well people from foreign countries. I think that the kind of obstacle in interpretation and in reading is also a form of this text, I mean manuscript, because of the fact that the handwriting is also more difficult to read than printing, even in Gothic, even in black letters. Although I have to say that this manuscript is quite clear, because the handwriting in Polish version is really careful. I will read you some samples of the text in the original Old Polish language, because I want you to hear it, and then in English translation. Okay. Here we have one of the first pages of the manuscript. I will read it now. Anno Domini 1562, die octava octobris, wyprawa królewny jej mci, Katarzyny Polskiej, a księżny Finlandzkiej, ze wszelakiemi rzeczami niżej wypisanymi, do Finlandii z Wilna roku i dnia wyżej wypisanych od jego królewskiej mci dana, which may be translated into modern English like a bridal trousseau of the Princess Catherine, the Princess of Poland and Finland, with all things listed below, to Finland from Vilnius in the year and day mentioned above, given by His Royal Majesty the King. Okay, and here is the text in transcription, rather in transliteration in modern Polish letters. And now I would like to explain what does Wyprawa exactly mean. Wyprawa was the bridal trousseau I mean, a kind of gift for the daughter, or in the case of Catherine, given to sister. And this trousseau is a, for example, clothes, jewels, and other equipment given the bride. It is not the dowry, but is a kind of addition to it. I would like also to pay your attention of this kind of abbreviation in this text. Jego kej dołtmy ci, which means in Polish, Jego królewskiej miłości, His Royal Majesty. But the bridal trousseau, wyprawa in Polish, it's not only a kind of things, but is also a kind of document which was prepared in the occasion of getting married in the Jagiellonian royal house, just as you can see here. I've got another definition of it, because usually more documents was prepared according to marriage, and the main document, I mean a marriage agreement, something like this, specified, for example, height of the dowry, in Latin dos, which was the sum defined in florins, then the amount of the sum securing this dowry. In Polish, we called it wiano. In English, we may translate it as bridal wealth. In Latin, dolatium. Oh, I've got some problem with my camera, I think. Okay. And sometimes this document specified also such details as a date and place of the wedding, and even the amount of the penalty for failure to keep promises by one of the parties. If you want to learn something more about all documents which was prepared according to marriage, according to marriage ceremony in Royal Jagiellon House, you may read article which I linked below. This is article titled Pacta Matrimonialia Domu Jagiellonów. The author of this article is Polish scholar Urszula Borkowska, and this article is also in Polish, but I think that it is no problem to translate it via Google Translator or something like that. Today I would like to discuss only a very smart part of the inventory. I choose royal jewelry and gems because I think it may be quite interesting. Okay, the second fragment, which I would like to read you, in Old Polish, of course. Naprzód klejnoty I szacunek ich, alspanty z kamieńmi. Pierwszy alspant złoty z 5 smaragdów, a z 6 par pereł wielkich, okrągłych, ormiańskich, a przy tym krzyż albo pendent z 5 szmaragdów, a z 1 perłą wielką wiszącą, szacowan na talar 6400. Okay. And here we have a transcript. I would like to pay your attention about this phrase. Klejnoty I szacunek ich in Polish. In English, gems and their estimated value. This price was most often in thalers. Why I pay your attention at this phrase? Because we've got here a word szacunek, which means something completely different today than in 16th century. When we means szacunek in Polish language today, we may translate it in English as respect for somebody, for someone. And in 16th century, these words meant also the value of the things. So this fragment shows that Old Polish and contemporary Polish is something are completely different. Okay. This description is very interesting. 11 halsband, 11th necklace in English, because this is the same necklace in which Lucas Cranach the Younger portrayed Katrin Jagiellon. 11 halsband, a w nim sztuk 7, a w każdej po 2 tablice diamentowych, a 6 sztuk, w każdej po 2 perle. Zawieszenie k niemu, w nim litera C wielkie z sztuk diamentowych, a nad nim korona z rubinów i perła zawieszona. Szacowan na talar 800. The 11 necklace and pendant to it in a capital letter C, made of diamond pieces, and a crown of rubies above, with pearl hanging, estimated at 800 thalers. And the next fragment describes zawieszenie. Zawieszenie in Old Polish language means a pendant. And here we've got zawieszenie na kształt węzła, w nim pośrodku rubin, ballas ostry. Około niego tablic 3 szafirowych. 4. szafir okrągły, mięższy z perłami, a 2 ballas rubini około niego z perłami i 2 perle wielkie na górze. Szacowan na talar 580. Which means a pendant in the shape of a knot in the center of a sharp ballas ruby. Around it 3 sapphire plates. The 4th is a round sapphire bordered with pearls. 2 ballas rubies surround it with pearls, and 2 great pearls are above it, priced at 518 thalers. And there we have interesting word ballas rubin, which doesn't exist in contemporary Polish. What does mean? Because we know what is a ruby, but ballas ruby is something different to interpretation. Ballas ruby means a kind of ruby, but in very rare pink color, very pale pink color, which was also very, very expensive. And then on the pages 15 to 45, we've got listed a small items of clothing. Most of this name not exist in contemporary Polish. And let's look what we got here. Bramki, stroiki czółka, pasy, manile, czepce, bieretki, kitliki, czuby, gurgiele i ferety. This kind of words do not exist in contemporary Polish, as I mentioned. And now I will try to translate these old Polish names into contemporary English. So the first, bramka. Bramka, it's a diminutivum form from brama, which means a kind of woman headgear made of expensive fabrics and decorated with jewels. Polish synonym of this word are stroik and czółko, as you can see. Pasy or pas in singularis, this word exists in contemporary language and means belts in general. But then we've got manile, manila in singularis, which means a precious ornament worn on the arm, a kind of bracelet or rather armlet. Then we've got czepce, which means bonnet. Then bieretki. Bieretka was also a kind of headgear, most often very decorative, various shapes, various material, but also, of course, expensive, worn by men and women. Then kitliki. Kitlik was a type of woman jacket, which was very fitted, tight-fitting, and sometimes was also padded. I think it was very a warm part of clothing. Okay. Then we have czuby, which means a proffering ornament made of feathers, bristles, a kind of headdress. Very, very, of course, decorative. Maybe it may be also a kind of headgear. Then my favorite word in this collection, gurgiele. What was gurgiel? Gurgiel was probably a kind of decorative trim at the neck, a kind of collar, ruff, or cape. And the last one, ferety, in singularis ferret. Ferret is a fine goldsmith ornament serving as a garment, but usually in larger amounts, derived from Spanish court fashion in the second half of the 16th century. All these small items, all these clothes are, of course, very rich decorated with pearls, with chains, with sewn, with feathers. They were sewn from very expensive materials like velvet, like silk, or furs like sables, for example. Okay. There is no time enough to present all items listed in inventory, so I will only enumerate it in Polish and in English It's my own translation because I would like to prepare a full translation of this text. So we've got in inventory, we've got also srebro, which means silver, sukienki, spodnie, clothes worn underneath, to the opposite, szaty wierzchnie, garments worn on top. It is the outermost garment. Pościel, which means bedding, aparaty kościelne, items used for religious ceremonies, rzeczy białe, underwear, obicie do pokoju, fabrics for decorating walls and furniture, carpets, etc. Then obrusy, zastawa stołowa, which means tablecloths and tableware. Wyposażenie piwnicy, basement equipment, and at the end of the inventory, we've got the part spisanie dworu, which is a list of persons. Persons include in the court mentioned by name or by name and surname. For example, Catherine Cook, Marcinek is mentioned only by his first name. Okay. I think that this is all. Now, Nina, it's your turn. Thank you very much. Or rather, kitos palion. I'm a bit tired today. But okay, I will listen now with pleasure Nina's part of presentation.
Thank you, Eva. That was very informative and interesting. So, hello everyone. My name is Nina Manninen. I study Catherine Jagiellon's possessions in contemporary documents in the University of Turku. I'm an archaeologist, and in my master's thesis I addressed Catherine's clothing, but in my upcoming dissertation I will cover all aspects of material culture in the documents. The focus is on Catherine's time at Turku Castle as the Duchess of Finland, the years 1562 and 63. And I aim to trace biographies of the artifacts Catherine owned, but also to create a new fresh overview of the court life in Turku Castle with all the material aspects. And one way of doing that is reconstructing artifacts found in the documents. And because today I'm going to focus on Catherine's clothing, and you'll also get a little glimpse of reconstructed articles of clothing I have made. Catherine is a very popular figure in Finland. She has sparked the imagination of writers and other artists throughout the centuries, and there are many legends surrounding her. As you are probably aware by now, she was a Polish princess who became Duchess of Finland in 1562 and Queen of Sweden in 69. She died in Stockholm in 83 and is buried in Uppsala Cathedral. Two inventories constitute the main sources on Catherine's possessions in my research. We have already heard about the inventory of dowry from 1562, and the other document, the inventory of possessions, was written only a year later when the ducal pair got arrested and transferred to custody in Sweden. And you already saw some pages from the inventory of dowry, how beautiful and neat the handwriting was there. So this is an example of the Swedish inventory. Not that pretty. But the inventory of dowry lists everything Catherine brought with her from home to Turku Castle, and the inventory of possessions lists what was left of it after the sieging and plundering of Turku Castle. Researchers in Finland have so far been using a Finnish translation of an incomplete Polish version published in the 1800s. And researchers in Sweden haven't been familiar with the dowry at all. And moreover, the inventory written in Swedish has not been available to researchers in Poland. So in my research, I have for the first time addressed both inventories in their entirety and in the original languages. And by translating the documents, analyzing the entries and comparing them with each other, it has been possible to make new findings of the artifacts in the documents. In addition to bringing to light, for example, dozens of previously unknown articles of clothing, the documents also shed light to the changing customs of dressing in changing environment. Because from the notes of the dowry, it is clear that the majority of the garments are of Eastern European origin, whereas the entries in the inventory suggest noticeable changes to the more sober northern style of clothing. The unique Polish fashion originated in the late 15th, early 16th centuries. Western European fashions were familiar already in the Middle Ages, and with Turkish and especially Hungarian influences, they developed into the Polish Renaissance fashion. Imported textiles and accessories were popular in the dress of the upper class, and in the court, Italian and Spanish fashions were favored, but national dress was also in some cases recognized. Upper class ladies wore dresses made of showy Turkish and Persian fabrics, silks and velvets. Decoration consisted mainly of garding of the skirt and bodice. Sometimes skirts were also completely covered with applique, and sleeves and bodices were decorated with golden braided cords and laces. Shirts were decorated with embroidery and lace. Headwear consisted of different caps, veils, and scarves, and of jewelry, especially armbands, golden chain necklaces, and jeweled belts or girdles were popular. Most of Catherine's clothes are not identified as being of specific fashion, which indicates that the majority was of Polish style. Some German, Spanish, Hungarian, and Italian clothes and accessories are mentioned, and some items of clothing are clearly Polish, judging from what they are called. Most of the gowns were black. It was, of course, very common color for the Renaissance era, but also the festive color of the Polish court already in the Middle Ages. Different shades of red and browns were also common in Catherine's wardrobe, and those three colors in all their shades were used both in formal and everyday clothing, while white and yellow were reserved for special occasions. Catherine's gowns were made from both locally woven and imported silks and woolen fabrics. Imported fabrics were from England, Italy, Ottoman Turkey, to name a few. Gowns made from extremely expensive gold and silver fabrics were the most valuable ones and, of course, intended for formal use. But most common fabric was velvet, which came in many different sorts. Usually it was checkerboard, triangle, or diamond patterned, but came also in fish scale or leaf patterns. And other common fabrics in Catherine's wardrobe were shiny atlas silk, patterned damask, and woolen cloth. Catherine's gowns were decorated with slashes, guards made from other fabrics, braids or cords, and golden studs, ferrets, already mentioned by Eva. These, however, disappear in the inventory of possessions, where only a couple of gowns are decorated. Some typically Polish items of clothing disappear as well, and these include headwear bramki and long veils, which, according to contemporary Polish texts, were part of women's ideal attire, and giermak and bulgermacze. Those are loose gowns of Polish type. Royal consorts usually change their habit of dress to match the fashion of their new home country, and it's apparent that this happened with Catherine's wardrobe as well during her time in Turku. Pictured here is a reconstructed outfit I've made that's based on these two documents. There are basically three classes historically accurate artifacts can be categorized into. A replica is an exact copy of an extant artifact. A reconstruction utilizes information gained from research on the subject, and a recreation is a recomposed and even fantasy-infused version of an original object. Since there are no surviving garments from Catherine, I've made use of firstly the descriptions in the documents and secondly research results on how garments were constructed and what they looked like. And so this can be called a reconstruction. My idea is to shake the established views on how Catherine dressed and what she looked like. And the result indeed looks very different from the portrait, for example. The portrait was painted with certain political goals in mind, and as we have come to see, it doesn't represent Catherine's wardrobe very well at all. I chose the majority of these garments based on what was most common and appeared most frequently in the documents. But in some cases, I had to settle for what was most possible or practical, or also most cost-effective. Everything in the reconstruction is handmade, and the stitches and techniques used are the same than in the 16th century. But interpretation is always a part of studying history, and this is only my educated guess of what Catherine may have looked like when walking in the halls of Turku Castle. So that's very shortly on Catherine's clothing. I thank you for your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. The garments you had prepared are really, really impressive. As
Thank
the
you.
pictures, I find it really very, very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nina, for this meeting. We are recording for the second time, to be honest. The previous time, it was unlucky day for us. Okay. I hope that you will enjoy. I will share this record on the Facebook, on our fan page. So then we will see on the Facebook then.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Nina.
Bye-bye.